Greetings everyone and welcome to the Work Racing Balance channel. In this video I'd like to share my thoughts on the Logitech G923, the upgraded version of the legendary entry-level sim racing gear. So let's not waste any time and get started. Well, let's start with the fact that this thing is a kind of a tester for a sim racer. Usually this is the next step after playing arcade racing game on a gamepad. How does it happen in most cases? You play Need for Speed, Forza Horizon or something similar, and then you come across a stream or shorts where someone is playing the similar games but with a steering wheel. At that moment, you go to the marketplace and start looking at offers. Looking at the prices, you freak out a little and start thinking if you spend that much money on a toy steering wheel and pedals, your family will not understand you, at best. But there is a ray of hope and alternative between crazy prices and the pleasant experience of driving a virtual car. Logitech G series gear. It doesn't really matter where you are looking for the equipment. These steering wheels with pedals are at the top of the sales charts in both of the secondary market and stores. Let's be honest, if you open this video, you are either considering purchasing this device or have already purchased it and want to hear the opinions of the other owners, and therefore have already gone through the above described path. Leave a comment below this video if I'm right. We have already partially answered this question. Relative affordability in terms of the price. We will not dwell on the specific figures as the price varies significantly depending on the country and whether you plan to buy a new device or the one that has already been used. The main thing is the Logitech G series is significantly, sometimes several times cheaper than other equipment for the sim racing. Yes, the low price comes with a certain compromises and outdated technology, but it's a very good compromise. Moreover, Logitech cut corners wisely and not on everything they could have, but more on this later. There is another factor. People are talking about the Logitech G series. It is recommended by consultants in the stores and is offered as one of the best options for beginner sim racers on almost every YouTube channel. Spoiler alert, I am not an exception. These recommendations are well founded. First, the price-quality ratio. For relatively little money, you get a quite high-quality materials, the steering wheel at least. Second, it's the cheapest option for a steering wheel with a force feedback technology. This is what provides the feeling of control, adds immersion, and avoids the feeling of driving a plastic toy. In short, force feedback is a must-have if you really want to try sim racing, and it's here. Thirdly, the set includes pedals that are far from the worst. In other words, the package is ready to race. You can also purchase a branded gear shift, which allows you to add even more immersion if you want and need to, but it's completely optional. Another factor contributing to the device popularity is the ability to attach it directly to your desk, and the pedals are perfectly suitable for the use of regular carpet. However, I will return to this feature later. At this point, I believe we answered the question of why the Logitech G series is so popular. Let us proceed directly to the G923. Let's start with the steering wheel itself. It's relatively small, only 260mm in diameter, and has a slanted bottom edge. It is covered with a leather that is pleasant to the touch. It has a blue-centered indicator. Quick note, at first I felt quite uncomfortable when my thumb rested on the steering wheel because of the stitching of the rim, but eventually this feeling disappeared and now the steering wheel is very comfortable to hold with bare hands. The steering wheel itself has all the buttons you can find on the DualSense controller. In the case of the Xbox, they will replicate the buttons of the Microsoft controller. There are also additional elements within reach of your thumbs. In general, all the buttons are well placed and after a short period of getting used to them, they are easy to press without visual control. There are rev bar LED indicators on top of the steering wheel body. They are quite bright, even in direct sunlight, but do not interfere with driving. Behind the steering wheel are metal gear shift pedals. They are pleasant to the touch and have a fairly good range of motion. The sound of changing gear is okayish. They are not the loudest element. There are other components that your roommates will hear much better. For example, the steering wheel itself, when it transmits the force feedback, especially when the car is moving along the curb of the track. Well, let me dwell into the system in more detail. Like modern direct drive bases, the G923 uses a considerably outdated and cheaper gear system. It's considered to be slightly slower than direct drives, transmits fewer details, and is generally not as cool. And this is true, but another, much more obvious difference is the noise from the bass. It's really loud. It may be difficult to be in the same room with it during the active race, and playing quietly at night while the family is asleep, it's an impossible task in my opinion. And here is a quick fact for those who are interested. The Logitech G923 has a peak force feedback torque of 2.2 or 2.3 Newton meters. This is not much for the world of sim racing, but it's more than enough for a beginner. In the case of G923, we have access to the TrueForce technology, which is not available in the previous models. In general, this is the only significant difference between the G923 and the G29. In short, it adds detail to the feedback. I understand that it might be difficult for beginner to understand what this actually means, so just consider it as an additional improvement. Actually feel the TrueForce difference, the game must also support it, but there is no need to worry. All popular games are compatible with this technology. To be safe, check the compatibility on the Logitech website. I'll leave the link in the video description. Is it worth overpaying for this technology? Is it better to save money and get the G29? I don't know, most people think it's not. But if possible, I would still go for the G923, especially if the price difference between G923 and G29 is not significant in your region. The pedal set is a solid plastic construction with an accelerator, brakes and clutch. They are of fairly good quality for their price range. There is not much to say about the accelerator and the clutch pedals, they are just okay, but the brake pedal deserves a little more attention. For someone who hasn't used racing brakes before, this pedal may seem very stiff. There are even threads on Reddit where people discuss how to make it softer. Let me give you a friendly advice, just get used to this stiffness and learn about trail braking. Obviously, this is a still entry-level pedal, but it allows you to understand the basics of braking and why stiff brake pedals are cool. Just for your information, you may see posts about the cases when sensors in the pedals start to malfunction. The reason is dust that getting in, which prevents the pedal movement from being read properly. This can be fixed by disassembling and cleaning the pedals. Personally, I haven't had any such problems after 1 year of relatively active use. I already mentioned that the G923 steering wheel can be easily attached to the desk. There is 2 plastic hooks on the base that securely attach it to the flat surface. I have no complaints about this mounting option. The steering wheel has never slipped or wobbled. Pedals can simply be placed on the floor or carpet. For the carpet option, there is an additional platform that attaches quite firmly to the fabric, which will allow them to slide less during the heavy braking. But I have to say that some movement may remain. The entire set also has holes for mounting on a cockpit or wheel stand. Given the popularity of the model, each cockpit or wheel stand option will likely have the appropriate spots and bolts for mounting. For example, the Next Level Racing Wheel Stand Lite 2.0, which I have a video about on my channel, is completely compatible with this set. Feel free to check it out as well. Now let's talk about the games you can play with this device on PlayStation 5. The reason is I'm focusing on the PlayStation 5 is that in case of PC, everything depends heavily on the settings of the steering wheel, the configuration of the computer, and the game itself. With the PlayStation 5, everything is very simple. Turn on the console, connect the base, wait 10 or 15 seconds for it to calibrate, and you're ready to play? True plug and play. Most of the time I use G923 in Gran Turismo 7 and Assetto Corsa Competizione. I also spent several dozen hours in Forza Horizon 5. Let's talk a little about how the steering wheel feels in each game. In my opinion, Gran Turismo 7 conveys feedback perfectly. You can really feel the car's behavior, understeer and oversteer. There are some particularities such as strange steering wheel movements on the straights and the medium and high speeds, but this is more a feature of the game itself than the steering wheel. I trust you will get a wow feeling after switching from a DualSense. Distinctive feature of ACC is a significant number of settings for different steering wheels and pedals. I was delighted to see a built-in preset for G923 within the game, which I used without any modifications. And you know what? It was another wow moment compared to Gran Turismo 7. Yes, I understand that this is very subjective, but I like the feedback in ACC much more. I completely understand that this difference comes from the game itself, but I really enjoy driving a car in ACC with the G923, much more than in GT7. Now, Here is a somewhat controversial opinion. I have a feeling that the Forza Horizon 5 doesn't get along very well with G923. No, don't get me wrong, compatibility is fine, the steering wheel is recognized, everything works okay. What I mean is that the game doesn't provide the same high quality feedback as ACC and the Gran Turismo 7. I have strong feeling that force feedback in Forza Horizon is off. Maybe it's because the Forza is tuned to gamepads, or maybe I'm just more used to previously mentioned games, or that's the consequences of the PS5 port. But personally, I don't really like it. Well, I believe that the G923 is a litmus test for anyone who has decided to try their hand at the sim racing. There are two possible outcomes here. Either you will really enjoy this hobby and the G923 will take your enjoyment to a whole new level, or you will realize that it's not worth it. In both cases, the journey will most likely be not very long, because you will either want more modern technology in form of a direct drive base, or you will simply have to sell the wheel on a secondary market. However, don't get me wrong, some people achieve top results with the G923 either. In the end of the day, it's one of the best options, because it's really high quality, popular, and not very expensive equipment that will not be difficult to sell. In short, I want to say the G923 is a great, arguably even the ideal choice for a beginner. That's all for now, take care and see you in next video.